To order. Mary Jo, if you could do the roll call, please.
Andy Selhurst. Here. Katie Gallagher.
Here.
Tony DeMarco.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Belbeer.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now proceed with our council meeting. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'd like to start the evening by announcing the winners of the city's first annual Halloween decorating contest. But since Councilman Andy Selhurst introduced this community activity, I'm going to give him the honors of announcing.
I'll go up to the podium. So, oops. This is the first year that the city has done this. It will not be the last, definitely. Thank you for the panel of judges for taking the time to be part of this. And talking to the judges, although there are only 3 prizes tonight, there are a few honorable mentions. It's really nice to see the effort that the residents have taken for this holiday. Next year we'll have some additional categories. We kind of joked there might be 10 or 20, but it's probably only going to be about 5 or 6. The winners can be seen in a photo gallery section on the city's website. Photographs also are now available on the city's Facebook page. Thank you to the winners, the honorable mentions, and to all who are decorated for this one special day in the fall. Although it may be more for children, adults take this situation pretty serious. For example, one lady on the street hurried home to be in time to turn the lights on and then asked the judges if they were really from the city. It shows spirit, it shows community effort. It's really nice to see. Now for some of the winners. For the scariest, 7509 Ira, Gina Fiorenti. Come on up. Fiorenti.
Thank you very much.
For the most creative, 6223 Trainmore. And also, no problem, appreciate it. And also for the most original, 6828 Trainmore. So it's all together in one area. That might be actually one of the categories we do next year, because on Delore and Pelham, there's a little grouping of homes that people actually do spend a couple days getting ready for all this, and it's pretty interesting. Also, some honorable mentions go out to the Marty Ridney residents. A lot of people have seen it on 4357 Rodone, and also to a couple other houses on Ira, 6568 Ira and 6400 Ira. For all the pictures of all the homes that we saw that evening, as I mentioned, they're on the Facebook page for Brooklyn. So please take a look at them, enjoy them, and we can see what we can do for next year. Thank you.
Congratulations again to all of you. I'd like to first start off by congratulating my colleague Kathy Pucci for your acceptance into the Cleveland State University Leadership Program. I will let her give you some background about the program, but I just wanted to congratulate her. Tonight we have a few new items on the agenda. First, council received a letter from our service director requesting a change order from the Recreation Center in the amount of $6,277.08. This change order is necessary to add additional piping that will connect hot water tank and existing showers and locker rooms B and D. This project was originally slated for next year, but since the contractors are working on the plumbing, it makes sense for the city to move forward with this project. There are 2 new ordinances repealing a 5% reduction in salary ranges council voted on in 2012. This will allow some of the non-bargaining employees to receive cost of living increases like bargaining employees already have. Lastly, council will take off the table tonight the confirmation of the mayor's appointment for the building commissioner. However, at the end of this meeting, we will adjourn to executive session to interview his candidate, Dave Kalsar, and we will reconvene to take a vote. Please note that tomorrow, Tuesday, November 11th, the city buildings will be closed with the exception of the Recreation Center for Veterans Day. A big thank you from council to all of our armed service veterans. It is important that every day we are thankful for your service and our freedom, but we should all use tomorrow as an opportunity to thank those who have served our country. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., City Council, the Mayor and Finance Director will meet in City Hall Conference Room for a work session to discuss next year's budget. All are welcome to attend. While on this topic, I'd like to say thank you to the mayor and all the directors for getting their requests done so timely for tomorrow's meeting. This is the earliest council has met to discuss the budget since I can remember. And as you know, we as a city are going to face some difficult choices in the future with the departure of American Greetings. I am hopeful with the right planning over the next couple years, we can move forward not only with a more efficient city, but we can properly plan for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. At this time, we'll have a public session. If anyone in the audience has anything for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you will be recognized.
Tom Adamski, 9625 Melody Lane, Brooklyn, Ohio. To certain residents on Melody Lane, our street is not a racetrack, nor your personal waste paper basket. To younger residents and younger generation, I was born on June 14, 1777. I am more than just cloth shaped into a design. I am the refuge of the world's oppressed people. I am the silent sentinel of freedom. I am the emblem of the greatest sovereign nation on earth. I am the inspiration for which American patriots gave their lives and fortunes. I have led your sons into battle from Valley Forge to the bloody ridges of Vietnam. I walk in silence with each of your honored death, to their final resting place beneath the silent white crosses, row upon row. I have flown through peace and war, strife and prosperity, and amidst it all, I have been respected. My red stripes symbolize the blood spilled in defense of this glorious nation. My white stripes signify the burning tears shed by Americans who lost their sons. My blue field is indicative of God's heaven under which I fly. My stars, cluttered together, unify 50 states as one for God and country. Old Glory is my nickname, and proudly I wave on high. Honor me, respect me, defend me with your lives and your fortunes. Never let my enemies tear me down from your lofty position, lest I never return. Keep alight the fires of patriotism. Strive earnestly for the spirit of your republic. Worship eternal God and keep his commandments, and I shall remain the bulwark of peace in Vietnam for all mankind. I am your flag. In memory of the past veterans and in tribute to present veterans, as a Vietnam-era veteran, I salute you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? We'll move on to committees, commissions, and board reports. First up is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening. The Finance Committee met earlier this evening at 6:30 and addressed the following items. We recommended the approval on the change order for the rec center. Ms. Gallagher already explained that we're getting some additional plumbing done in preparation for the next phase of the project next year. Ordinance 2014-52, which is approving a full-time rec commissioner position, and I do anticipate taking action on this evening. So I just want to share with everyone that this would be a full-time position, not eligible for overtime and/or comp time, and the pay range would be at the low end $50,000 and at the high end $80,000, payable biweekly. And we anticipate that 2014-64, which was a competing ordinance, that we'll table that this evening. Ordinance 2014-65 is on second reading. However, the Finance Committee recommended that we pass this by emergency measure. This is our multi-purpose hook lift truck and accessories for the service department. We want to get that order in so that we'll have it in time for leaf collection next year. This is the one-arm truck to collect leaves, and that cost is $279,789.18. On first reading this evening, 2014-68, which repeals the 5% reduction in wages for the non-bargaining administrative employees, and 2014-69 is also on first reading, and that is relating to the part-time economic development director's 5% cap on her pay. I anticipate that we'll be discussing these in our budget meeting tomorrow, so as this progresses and we move forward with it, I'll make sure that we get into the record what the ranges are for each position. As Ms. Gallagher mentioned, we have a budget meeting tomorrow, a work session at 6 o'clock, and I believe that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Public Safety and Environmental Committee. Councilman Van Kirk.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. The Public Safety Committee met following the last council meeting to discuss pay raises or pay increases for various part-time employees within the police department. Proposals for any wage increases will be presented by the chief at our 2015 budget meetings. We also heard from the police chief on the current state of our police station. The police station is in very poor shape, and the numerous problems are increasing, and they need to be addressed in short order. The Safety Committee is moving forward with a plan to do just that. As we begin the process of evaluating the definite needs of our police station, I encourage all residents to get involved in the process as well. The city is in great need for a new police facility. The number one job of government is to protect its residents, and the police and fire are at the forefront of this job. We need a new station so that our police can do their job. We're going to start looking on how to best fill that need, and the Safety Committee will continue holding public meetings regarding this very important need in the near future, and I would like, again, to have residents involved in that process. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Recreation Board, Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Brooklyn Recreation Friday night basketball will be held on Friday nights beginning January 9th, 2015 through February 20th, 2015 in the Brooklyn High School East Gym. This program is open to residents only, grade 1 through grade 8. Registration will begin December 1st, 2014 through January 9th, 2015 at the John M. Coyne Recreation Center during regular business hours. You must show your current resident identification card at the time of registration. Cost, $35. Session dates. All sessions will be held from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. January 9th, 16th, 23rd, February 6th, February 13th, February 20th. Street shoes will not be permitted on the gym floor. Please bring with you a pair of athletic shoes that will only be worn on the gym floor during your scheduled session. If the school is closed due to inclement weather, on the day the program is scheduled, the program will not be held on that day. Session times, Group 1, grades 1, 2, and 3, 6 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. Group 2, grades 4, 5, and 6, 7 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Group 3, grades 7 to 8, 8 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. Group times are subject to change based on number of participants. The next Recreation Board meeting will be held on November 17th at 7 p.m. in the Mayor's Court. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up, legislative updates. Councilwoman Balbier.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. A subject of interest in recent months is the use of traffic photo monitoring devices to detect certain traffic law violations, such as red light violators and speeding. This is the subject of pending House Bill 69 and Senate Bill 342. If passed, the legislation would not outright ban the devices, but would require a police officer to be present at the site of the camera to personally write a ticket. 2 local communities that now have these cameras had proposed charter amendments on the ballot to regulate them. Cleveland voters approved by a 3-to-1 margin that now bans these cameras unless a law enforcement officer is present at the location and personally issues the ticket. Maple Height voters also passed a similar charter amendment regarding the cameras, also by a 3-to-1 margin. This went even further. They are now prohibited from entering a contract with a traffic camera vendor if payment is contingent on the number of tickets issued. Also, any violations must be tried before a municipal or common pleas judge, and the defendants be afforded the same rights that they would receive if facing criminal charges. The bottom line, folks, here is people don't like the cameras. They don't like them. And the feeling is that the state will be putting some restrictions on statewide with the bills pending before the Assembly. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Board of Zoning Appeals, Acting Commissioner Colsar.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals will be meeting Thursday, November 20th at 6 p.m., Brooklyn City Hall Conference Room, to hear 8 requests for variances from Tom O'Neill, representing Menard, Inc., for the new Menard's Home Improvement Store at 7700 Brook Park Road. Variance requested a maximum accessory structure height of 20 feet, maximum fence height of 6 feet, minimum of 1 parking space for each 250 square feet of floor area, maximum of 2 square feet of signage for each 1 lineal foot of building frontage, maximum of 1 identification sign on each building face, maximum freestanding sign height of 16 feet, maximum freestanding sign area of 60 square feet, and minimum distance equal to sign height for a freestanding sign from the right-of-way. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. The Planning Commission met Thursday, November 6th at 6 p.m. We passed a request from Anchor Sign Incorporated to install illuminated wall-mounted sign for business identification of PPG Paints located at 7580 North Cliff Avenue. We passed a request from Great Lakes Sign Company to install an illuminated LED wall-mounted sign with channel letters for business identification of Z Brothers Trucking located at 7603 Clinton Road. Passed a request from Great Lakes Sign Company to install illuminated LED video message center wall sign on the side of the building for business identification of Z Brothers Trucking located at 7731 Clinton Road. Passed a request from Menards Incorporated for site plan approval to construct a new 172,740 square foot Menards Home Improvement Store located at 7700 Brook Park Road, and passed a request from Menards to install illuminated wall-mounted signs and freestanding signs for new business identification of the Menards Home Improvement Store located at 7700 Brook Park Road. Next up, we have Public Works Committee, Councilman Selhertz.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. Mr. Verba's not available tonight to be at the meeting, so I've got some notes from him. He passed on to the rest of City Council. Outlook, Bentwood, and Rodone have been completed. We still have to submit a punch list and correct a few minor things, as well as the landscaping. Many people are wondering on why Ridge Road has not been open, especially by the library. The castings by West 66th were stolen out of Zelli's a while back ago. They were special order castings and have been finally put in. We are also waiting for the weather to break so that we can get a temporary striping down. When that's complete, the ridge will be open to traffic. They will have to come back in the spring to permanently stripe and landscape. Punch list items will also be addressed in the spring. County is waiting on Traffic Tech for a couple of other county projects to stripe as well. This past Friday, we received our new automated truck for recycling. Information regarding the recycling program is going to be on the city website and also on Facebook. The company will start the delivery beginning on Wednesday, November 12th of the toters, and we'll start on Monday's garbage route on the 17th. Everyone will have their container by Sunday. The company has been granted permission to work on this coming Saturday if necessary. First official day will be Monday the 17th, as I just mentioned. Educational information has been sent to the printers, and residents should have it sometime this week. Installation of an exhaust system at the service garage has started. Appears that the fire alarm system at the service garage will not be done by this year. The bocce ball court roof also should be completed by next week. Once again, we'll be at the mercy of the weather. This has been outsourced because we do not have the manpower to get it done in enough time. We still have one more court to complete next year, along with some electrical work. The bocce court, most people do understand, but some still kind of go, what's the building next to the senior center? It's that wooden structure there. For winter, Mr. Verba has ordered 500 tons of salt, and banners for the holiday season are already in stock in the city inventory, and they've started to put Christmas lights up. Still plan to do some crack filling on Memphis Village South and Winter Lane this winter. It's going to be a sharing of services with Parma Heights. Parma Heights will be supplying their equipment and one employee, and Mr. Verba's been assured that pretty much the temperature does not matter as long as we have dry pavement to complete the project. That concludes my report.
Thank you. School Board Liaison.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. On Saturday, November 1st, the board held interviews for the open position on the board that was created with the resignation of Jennifer O'Banion. At the end of the interview process, the board voted in Mr. Carl Etheridge to the vacant position. On November 3rd, 2014, there was a Board of Education special meeting that took place in the Treasurer's office conference room. The board had nominations for the position of Vice President on the board. Mrs. Barney Barchak was nominated and elected to the position. The board also accepted the resignation of Cynthia Walker, School Superintendent, effective June 30th, 2015. There was a lengthy discussion as to how to handle the search process for a new superintendent, whether doing the process in a simple process or using one of the few specialized search firms for the education field. Upcoming events, you're starting the winter sports. Please look at their website for football, basketball, girls and boys. Saturday, November 22nd was supposed to be a night at the races. That has been canceled. The next board meeting is November 18th, 2014. The public is welcome and encouraged to attend. It is your school system for your children. That concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll now move on to reports of council, and back over to you, Councilman Sellards.
Thank you. On tonight's agenda is ordinance 2014-65, authorizing the purchase of the V-Hook truck. At the last meeting, Ms. Pucci mentioned about the research I did in regards to the V-Hook truck. Yes, and it did involve about reading about it from Brecksville and actually going down there and looking out at the vehicle and see how their experience was with it. I went down there along with Mrs. Balbier. The whole process, though, did start about 2 years earlier, looking and seeing a automated leaf vacuum truck in Lakewood. The one problem with that was it works for a month or two to pick up the leaves, and that's it, and then it sits in the garage the rest of the time. With the vehicle that we're getting now, as soon as the leaf season's over, we can convert it into a salt truck with a plow, and that's something that's desperately needed by this city to replace some of our aging fleet. This past week, I sent out to the rest of City Council a 5-year plan for the repair and upkeep of our streets. This will be up for discussion in our work session and the next council meetings. In 2015, a proposed plan will cost the city about $1.2 million. In 2016, the amount is about $517,000. There's a significant drop in money, but Memphis Avenue and Rodone are tentatively set for work, which will cost the city some money. The year 2017 is projected at almost $707,000, and the year 2018 is a little short of $579,000. This is all part of a plan to get the worst streets done, but also starts tackling some of the not-so-bad streets to prevent the city from having to do major rehabilitation and thus costing the city more money. This would also help the city get the bidding process out earlier than previous years and get work done sooner instead of up to the end of the season. We will be going out back soon to look at the streets that have been done and restart a crack filling program to maintain the streets that recently have been redone to keep them from deteriorating as fast as they have been. Very simply, we're going to start to try to be proactive in the maintenance of our streets. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up, Councilman DeMarco.
First, I'd like to congratulate all of the winners for the decorating contest for Halloween, and all those that didn't win but make their neighborhood look nice. It's a great tribute to our residents in the city of Brooklyn. I was going to make some comments this evening on ordinances 2014-68 and 69 regarding the repealing of a ceiling that was on the cap, or a cap on the compensation for our directors, including our economic development director back in 2012, The council at that time decided to reduce the high end of the salary range by 5%, and I believe I was the only council person that voted not to decrease the range, and now here we are 2+ years later, I guess, asking to bring it back to where it was. So I'm not sure what the basis is for the ordinance, but hopefully we'll find out. I'll find out in additional upcoming meetings. I would like to make some comments regarding economic development. I unfortunately was not able to attend the last council meeting as I had a work commitment. Yes, I have talked about this many times previously, but it is a central issue vital to the future success of our city. Yet apparently not everyone has the same sense of urgency as I seem to. In addition, I have made several previous comments where I have clearly stated that I do not question the competence of our current economic development director. I first met Fran almost 15 years ago when I was a commercial banker. The problem with our economic development efforts, like other aspects of our city, is that there is no accountability, and there continues to be no accountability for positive action that will help prepare for the future of Brooklyn. But can we be doing more? Can we do better? Absolutely. Should directors be held accountable for their areas of responsibility and expertise? For sure. At the council meeting on October 14th, our economic development director took my past comments personally and made some unfortunate remarks about me personally. The personal comments don't bother me, but I believe they speak volumes to the character of the individual making the comments. I seem to be the only member of council that expects accountability from our mayor and his directors, or at least I'm the only one that is willing to bring it up publicly. At the same October 14th meeting, our economic development director said that I have not presented, and I quote, one plan or suggestion for economic development since I have been on council, which is not true, as I will outline shortly. It is interesting to note that when someone who has not been held accountable is challenged, the response is that it's someone else's fault. Shouldn't the economic development director come up with a plan for Brooklyn, get the mayor and council's commitment, and then implement the plan? If the mayor and his administration is looking for a council member to develop our economic development strategy, I don't see the point in compensating someone who carries the title of economic development director. Fran did correctly state that I met with her when I first became a member of council back in 2009 to discuss economic development. Her basic responses to my questions were that she was working with inferior real estate assets for today's business owners. Yet I've seen many situations in other municipalities where excuses are not made and positive outcomes are happening. My assessment several years back, which still holds true today, is that we need more resources allocated to this extremely important endeavor. One of my initial suggestions was to find someone else to lead economic development efforts. Someone with different skills than what we have currently, and possibly provide a compensation plan that includes some form of incentive if the individual was able to generate tangible results. When that met with resistance from the mayor, and I'm assuming Fran, I suggested as a means to compromise that we hire an additional resource that could go out and sell Brooklyn to the greater business community while utilizing Fran's vast knowledge of various funding sources to make projects viable for Brooklyn's future. I believe a majority of council at that time would have supported the addition to staff and expenditure. After some months passed, the mayor decided this was not a good idea and decided to not move forward with the additional resource. Also, several years back, early on in my council days, I quickly realized that we had no marketing plan in terms of economic development. What did we want to communicate to business owners and their representatives? What were the reasons a business would consider locating their operation in Brooklyn? As the mayor and members of this council know, I pushed to have an economic plan developed by a professional firm that had economic development experience. I was a member of the Economic Development Committee in 2012 and pushed for this marketing plan. Unfortunately, the decision was made to go in a different direction, whatever that entails, and today we sit here with no defined marketing plan. I also asked the mayor to institute an annual breakfast and invite all of our business owners, giving these people a forum to talk directly with the mayor, his directors, and members of council, and to allow us to communicate the positive things happening in Brooklyn. With much prodding, we did have this breakfast in 2012 and again in 2013, but for some reason it was canceled this year. Finally, during my tenure as council president in 2012, I presented an idea to the mayor to purchase the land where Sheetz now sits and take economic development of that site into our own hands instead of relying on a third party to help with our economic development efforts. I was confident then, and I still am today, that we can bring office users to our city. The short answer, as you all know, is nothing happened, and we're now saddled with a gas station in the middle of our business district. So to say the least, I have made several suggestions and potential solutions, and unfortunately, they weren't acted on, or the mayor and our economic development director didn't think they were viable. Again, as I've said many times, our city is at a major crossroad, and serious action should have been taken years ago to tackle these potential issues head-on. Develop contingency plans, but instead we wait and take no meaningful action. We were given 5 years advance notice of our largest taxpayer at that time leaving our city, and again, we've taken no significant action. Does anyone else see this as a problem besides myself? I know change is difficult, and we are about to embark on the biggest change our city has seen financially in over 50 years. Yes, it is scary. There are uncertainties, but without a plan to counteract these changes, we are not giving ourselves an opportunity to succeed. Finally, to Resident Adamski, your comments at the last council meeting and your assessment of what I've offered in terms of ideas for economic development could not be further from the truth and are completely without merit. I am aware that you're an ardent supporter of our council president and her mother, who previously was a member of this council, so I take all of your comments with a grain of salt. I would suggest you pay attention to all of our meetings and have your facts in order before you come and make public statements that are not correct. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Van Kirk.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. Mr. Adamski, I wanted to thank you for the poem. I don't guess it was a poem, the reading you read about our flag. I've never heard that before. That was very good. On our agenda tonight, we'll be voting for the creation of a new position at the Rec Center. There's been a lot of good discussion on this topic that's brought us to this point tonight. Personally, I've gone back and forth on this issue for numerous reasons that I'm not going to share with you tonight, but after much thought, I've decided to support this position. To be honest with you, essentially, it's to me, it's kind of the lesser of two evils. Something different needs to be taking place at the Rec Center moving forward. However, proper funding for the Rec Center has been lacking for quite some time. Adding this position will, I believe, alleviate some short-term needs, but the problem is an aging facility that is becoming increasingly expensive to maintain. I fear the person who ultimately takes this position will not be provided with the resources necessary to run the center effectively, and that will be of no fault of their own. However, with the major loss of revenue facing our city, we have to distinguish between wants and needs. There are dozens of wants, but how many are actual needs? That is a question that has to be answered as we move forward. While I am supporting this ordinance tonight, it is not without reservation. I would expect the highest level of accountability with the new leadership and a clear plan laid out for the future of the Rec Center. Some very tough decisions are going to have to be made regarding this facility in the near future. Tomorrow marks the 95th anniversary of the first celebration of Armistice Day, which marked the official end of World War I in November of 2018. Or in 1918, I'm sorry. In November of 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day with the following words: "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the Council of the Nations," end quote. Ever since that first day, that first Veterans Day, we as Americans have marked November 11th as a day to remember and thank those who served in our armed forces, along with their families that were left behind. I think it was best said by a former president when he said this, quote, "Those who live today remember those who do not. Those who know freedom remember today those who gave up life for freedom. Today, in honor of the dead, we conduct ceremonies, we lay wreaths, we speak words of tribute. In our memories and our hearts, we hold them close to us still. Yet we also know, even as their families knew when they last looked upon them, that they can never fully be ours again, that they now belong to God and to that for which they so selflessly made a final and eternal act of devotion. We could not forget them. Even if they were not our own, we could not forget them. For all time, they are what we can only aspire to be, giving, unselfish, the epitome of human love, to lay down one's life so that others live. We think on their lives. We think on their final moments. In our mind's eye, we see young Americans in a European forest or an Asian island or at sea or in aerial combat. And as life expired, we know that those who could had last thoughts of us and of their love for us. As they thought of us then, so too we think of them now with love, with devotion, and with faith. The certainty that what they died for was worthy of their sacrifice. Faith, too, in God and in the nation that has pledged itself to His work and to the dream of human freedom. In a nation, too, that today and always pledges its life to their eternal memory. And that was spoken by President Reagan at the 40th anniversary of Armistice Day on November 11th, 1988. We owe much to these brave men and women. This day is a little more special for me this year, I guess, in years past, in the passing of my grandfather, who was a Navy veteran earlier this year. This has often been called the greatest generation, is quickly passing away, yet we still owe them so much. Many residents of our city fall in this generation, and I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. To all of our veterans, I want to tell you how I am blessed to be able to raise a family in the greatest nation on earth. I am able to do that in large part because of you. Thank you for your service, and enjoy your day tomorrow. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pucci.
Thank you. I, too, would also like to congratulate both the winners in the Halloween decorating contest and also for all those residents who took the time and energy to add something to the Halloween season. We really appreciate your efforts. For those of you who may not have heard, Cuyahoga County Public Library was once again given a 5-star rating, and this is the 6th year in a row. This is the 5th year in a row that CCPL earned the Library Journal Index's highest overall score among libraries in their category. They are first in per capita circulation, visits, and program attendance. Our branch in Brooklyn is actually one of the busiest libraries in the entire system, and I think we're really fortunate to have such a great library system in this region. The Safe Routes to School, the next meeting for the Safe Routes to School is Wednesday, November 19th at 7:30 a.m. at Brookridge. And as Ms. Gallagher mentioned, I was very honored to ask to apply and also to be accepted to the Levin College of Urban Affairs Leadership Academy. This is a seven-month program for elected officials, appointed officials, and administrators. So there's a cross-section of public sector officials participating. Among the other benefits of the program, it focuses on local issues in a broader context and learning tested practical solutions that can be put into place quickly. Past graduates have indicated that they were able to see the benefits of their participation in what they were able to bring back to their community. We actually started last week, and it is really a great group of leaders from across the region, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'd also like to thank the Northeast Ohio City Council Association. I applied for and was awarded a $500 scholarship for the program from the association, so I'm very appreciative of that. I, too, would like to thank our veterans for their service. We all owe them a debt of gratitude for what sacrifices that they have made. And thank you, Mr. Adamski, for your words on the flag. I, too, had never heard that poem before. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Balbier.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. I, too, would like to thank you, Mr. Adamski, for reading that poem. I just recently found out this past week when we were doing our self-defense class that you were a Vietnam veteran, and I do have a newfound admiration for you. Yes, tomorrow is Veterans Day, the day that we honor those who protect us and keep our country safe. It has always been an important day for my family as I was growing up, and it still is today. It was always an important day to my father, who served 4 years in the Army during World War II. But he had spent 2 years in Cryo Military Hospital getting skin grafts from his legs applied to his face. You see, he had lost half his face in a battle in the Philippines. My husband, too, is a veteran of the Vietnam War, and he served the U.S. Army in 1969 to 70. When I see a veteran at an event, I always say thank you. Thank you for your service, and I truly, truly mean it. So if you have friends or family that have served in the military, please acknowledge them and thank them. It was one time brilliantly said on a 60-minute show by a lieutenant colonel who was being interviewed, who said, "Hate the war, but love the warrior." So for all you vets out there, God bless you and God keep you, and a heartfelt thank you for your service. This past weekend, there was a self-defense workshop. The owners of the U.S. Shuai Chao Kung Fu Academy extended an invitation to the Brooklyn community to learn techniques of self-defense. I personally want to thank the owners, Jessica and Daniel Cliff, for their time and expertise in instructing our residents in the techniques of self-defense. I am only saddened that more residents did not partake in the workshop. I did partake in the workshop, and now I'm considered a lethal weapon. No, just kidding, just kidding. But seriously, I did learn some great techniques. I hope I never have to use them. But I do think that they're going to do this again, and it's a good thing to learn. You know, there's some great moves. Once again, the city of Brooklyn, along with St. Thomas More Church, will be collecting food for the Thanksgiving baskets to help those in need. You can drop off the food at the at City Hall over here from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. The last day they'll be collecting the food will be November 21st. All baskets will be delivered roughly around Tuesday, November 25th. The 15th Annual Chef Training Holiday Bake Sale at the Polaris Career Center takes place November 25th, 2014, from 10 to 4. For more information, you can call 440-891-7600. I highly, highly recommend it if you can make it to this bake sale. It's phenomenal. It is run by the students who, under the direction of a professional chef, Chef Olajewski, who teaches these children wonderful baking techniques. And they sell them for profits. And not only are they making money, but it's fabulous. It's just, I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to go there. I highly recommend it to go there and purchase your holiday baking. All the proceeds, like I said, help the Polaris Chef Training Student Educational Activity Fund. One thing about this program is they have received so many high ratings in everything they do at Polaris, and we are so fortunate to have them. It particularly interests me only because of the cooking aspect there, but they do have like a little restaurant, and they have the students there wait on tables and perform such as they are in a restaurant. And you know, a lot of kids aren't right now thinking about college, and you know, the food industry is good for kids like that or people like that. And you know, it's a great program that they offer. Not only do they do the cooking, but there's all kinds of other technical classes that students can take, and we're so lucky to have that. Also, I'd like to have a special thank you to Chief Zemek. We had lunch a couple weeks ago. Don't look shocked, please, Chief. I thank you for inviting me to see the command vehicle. It was really amazing. I've never seen one before. If you get a chance, it's a nice white, like SUV, with our symbol out there, and I thank you for that. It really was nice. And that basically concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Jansky.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. I want to comment on last Tuesday's election on the traffic cameras. The city of Cleveland and surrounding cities installed numerous cameras throughout their area. So let's look at Cleveland. The city put up 5 to 10 cameras in the beginning, and residents were not happy. So instead of removing the cameras that were unpopular, they installed more. How about that? Majority residents don't like it, so install more. A committee was formed with residents to get the camera issue to a vote. The result was 78% to remove them. It's a shame that officials of any city elected to office to run the city, but don't listen to the majority, which in this case, overwhelmingly majority, was to remove the cameras. I have spoken to many Clevelanders, and they were going to the polls just to vote against the camera issue. Some of them not voted in years and re-registered to vote. That is how unpopular these cameras are. Also, it was reported on the news that camera tickets have gone down due to the tickets being issued. This is not exactly true. People go around other streets to avoid the cameras, causing more traffic on side streets. I have, along with other residents, brought up the idea several times to use those cameras or any camera in high crime areas such as behind buildings, sidewalks, or any dark areas where high crime exists. When I did make the argument of where the cameras should be placed, one of the comments I heard was that using cameras in those areas would not generate any money for the city. I said, really? This proves my point that it is all about money. Some city officials have made comments that we should listen to our elected officials that were put in office. My answer to that is, if council doesn't listen to the majority of residents, then put it to a vote of the people. The people of the city pay our salaries and benefits, and when any city official chooses to go against the majority and can't get it right, then the residents will choose to exercise their constitutional rights, which is exactly what happened. I would hope city officials of any city will now understand when something is not popular, that they respect what their residents are saying and not force their own agenda, this being camera light issue or any other unpopular issue. Hats off to Cleveland residents who took a stand and voted. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. If you couldn't tell by watching the last few meetings, some individuals on council have been cautiously approaching the newly created Recreation Commissioner position and even the appointment for the Building Department. I'd like to explain my thoughts on these positions. A couple of months ago, City Council agreed to hire a human resource consultant. We have many issues going on in the city regarding employee matters, and because our law director's background is not specifically in employment law, we as a city have fallen a bit short in this area. Although it is costly to the city to have this consultant working for us, I believe there is a higher return on the investment. As one of the first tasks, the HR consultant created job descriptions for the Recreation Department management team. It was my position we should move forward in the same manner of creating these descriptions in the Building Department. Since the last meeting, the mayor fulfilled this request and had job descriptions created. As for posting the position, it is the mayor's authority to choose the candidate he wants to put in front of council for confirmation. Some of us on council felt that we should still post this position and follow the process the HR consultant created. However, the mayor has assured us he has done his due diligence exploring all the options for filling this position when picking Mr. Dave Kulsar as the Assistant Building Commissioner. The mayor knew that Mr. Fitzgerald's intention was to retire in 2014, so when filling this position, he looked at all the factors so Mr. Kulsar could move up and take over for Mr. Fitzgerald. Therefore, barring any huge issues in the council interview with Mr. Kulsar, I'm going to take the mayor's word he went through a fair and detailed process when hiring Dave. As for the Recreation Commissioner position, I have discussed this position at length with my colleagues, the mayor, and the Human Resource Consultant. I understand there are some benefits to creating the position and why the mayor has chosen to bring this in front of council. But as I've discussed with the mayor, I still have my reservations. I understand this position will likely pass tonight, and I am committed to working with the person. But I still feel like we have failed to create a financial plan for the Recreation Center's future, which I believe will hinder any person taking this job from creating a successful long-term plan. Again, I would concede this position solves some of our short-term problems, but we have not looked into the future, and so I will not be voting for that tonight. On a lighter note, I'd like to say thank you to one of our businesses, as Mary said, Shui Chao Kung Fu Academy, who held the self-defense class. And the owners, Jessica and Daniel Cliff, when they moved into Brooklyn, they got involved with our community right away. And they graciously offered to hold this class at one of the residents' requests. And as a probation officer, I've taken many self-defense classes, and I can tell you, they did a great job in both the talking points and the defense techniques, and it's probably been one of the best I've been to. And that concludes my report, and we'll move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you. Like Andy mentioned, the side streets have been completed. Rodone north of Bidoff, Bentwood and Outlook are finished. And Ridge Road is very, very close. If they get a couple good days, It'll be open by the end of the week, supposedly. There's only a couple of spots. One of them's by 66th and Ridge, where, like was mentioned, the sewer grates were stolen, so they had to have them remade. And when they put them in, they have to pour some concrete, so they might have to close the right lane as they do that. And that's about the only adjustment they have to make. So hopefully, if the weather stays nice, they'll get the streets swept, the lines painted, and everything. But they got to get moving because I guess the weather's going to change by Wednesday. But hopefully, that's the plan. I also want to thank all the veterans. I had a 6-year commitment with the Army Reserves, and the Vietnam War hadn't started yet when my time was up. But I respect all the veterans, and I wish them the best. Halloween went very well. We had no complaints, and the police department stated there were no problems, so I'm thankful for that. And I also want to thank the winners for the Halloween decoration contest. Andy came to me a couple months ago and asked if it would be all right if he did that. And the only advice I had for him is that's fine, just don't tell him who the judges are because they get a little backlash. So he didn't do that, I guess. Mr. Verba gave us all the rundown before he left tonight, and Andy covered most of them. But the big thing, you'll be getting literature on the recycling bins, and they're going to start delivering them Wednesday, and everybody should have them by Sunday, so you'll be able to put them out next week. I also want to congratulate all the winners in last week's election, and I look forward to working with the Mr. Budish at the county level. We also received an award, and I'm going to read it. This is a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. It's presented to the city of Brooklyn, Ohio, for its comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year that ended December 31st, 2013. We also received an award for our financial director, Dan Enovich. It says an award of financial reporting achievement goes to Dan Enovich, Director of Finance in the city of Brooklyn, Ohio. So I'd like to thank Dan and all his employees in the finance department for a job well done. And that completes my report.
Okay, we'll move on to director's reports. Finance Director Dan Enovich.
Thank you, Council President Gallagher. As of today, our unencumbered general fund balance is $10,446,258.27. Year-to-date, we have taken into the general fund $16,820,831.33, and our expenditures year-to-date are $14,178,127.37. Our total fund balance, including all reserves, as of today, is $26,487,041.65. That concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll move on to requests, and first up, we have a request to approve a change order for the locker room and restroom renovations at the Recreation Center.
Move to approve the change order in the amount of $6,277.08.
Second.
To approve, Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Move on to ordinances. We have ordinance 2014-52, establishing the full-time position of Parks and Recreation Commissioner and repealing the position of Recreation Commissioner. Need a motion, please?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Andy Selhertz.
No.
Katie Gallagher.
No.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
No.
To adopt, Andy Selhertz.
No.
Katie Gallagher.
No.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
No.
Okay.
Pass.
Oh, may I be recognized?
Sure.
So just to clarify, Mr. Clausen, this means that it is adopted, but there's a waiting period? Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have ordinance 2014-64, establishing the full-time position of Parks and Recreation Commissioner for a 3-year period effective January 1st, 2015, and expiring December 31st, 2017, and repealing the position of Recreation Commissioner.
Motion to table.
Second.
To table, Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Okay, next up is ordinance 2014-65, authorizing the purchase of a multi-purpose hook lift truck and accessories for use by the Service Department for a total of $279,789.18 through cooperative purchasing programs.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules?
Second.
To suspend the rules, Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
To adopt by emergency, Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2014-68, repealing Section 1 of ordinance 2012-6, as amended relating to compensation for full-time and administrative employees in the non-bargaining agreement. This is on first reading. Ordinance 2014-69, repealing Section 1 of Ordinance 2012-22, relating to the compensation for the part-time position of Economic Development Director. This is on first reading. Council will now adjourn to executive session to interview Mr. Dave Colsar for the position of Building Commissioner. And additionally, council will be moving into executive session to discuss matters relating to negotiations. And in executive session, Mayor, you'd like yourself, the law director, and Mr. Colsar, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
To adjourn to executive session, Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Okay, are we going to vote on